Hey everybody, welcome back to part 2 of our 2-part episode series on our current events. So much going on so far this year.
Indeed.
We had a lot to talk about, a lot to get caught up on.
Man, were you on fire?
It kind of happens sometimes, I'm not going to lie.
Stuff.
But I'm Tiffany Thomas.
I'm Richard Thomas.
And we are so happy to have you on our Lionheart Institute podcast, Table Talk. So welcome, and I hope you enjoy part 2.
This is going to be mind-blowing. The shit they trying to do to us?
Shh.
Help the people.
Republicans voted to not help the American people. Even after the demands they made, Democrats made the concessions, and not one Republican voted to approve it. I mean, to me, that just blows my mind. So there's becoming a pattern right now in Congress. And the Republicans are making it very clear that they have no interest whatsoever in bipartisanship.
I would love it if you would, at this moment, just share some of your thoughts in the comments about bipartisanship and whether or not it's the Republicans' fault, the Democrats' fault. Just state it out there. Just throw it out there like it's my Facebook page, because they don't give a damn what they say on my page. They just say any old thing.
Right. Well, let me give you another example. So back in 1994, Biden, something he's very, very proud of, he helped pass the Violence Against Women Act. Now, this was to protect women in domestic violence situations.
Which was necessary.
Which was necessary. Domestic violence was getting out of control. Women were dying. And so he helped create this bill to offer resources, to offer protection for women in domestic violence situations. Now, the last time this bill was reinstated was back in 2013,
okay.
And Obama reinstated it in his last term. It was up to be reinstated in 2019. And you know what happened? Trump didn't even bring it to the table. He let it expire.
He had orange dye in his eyes.
Well, when you're friends with the biggest child rapist in the world, you tend to want to maybe change some laws to help him out. So he let it go, and he did not instate this Protection Act for women. So one of the first things that Biden did was to fight to reinstate this, because it was very near and dear to his heart, and it was important. So I just want to point out 172 Republicans voted against reinstating the Violence Against Women Act. And you want to know why? Because it was more important for them to keep guns in the hands of their husbands and boyfriends who were killing these women than to protect these women.
Anybody got a fan?
So now let me break this down for you. So there was a revision to the new act.
Okay.
And what they determined, and this is based on FBI database and case studies, they found that boyfriends and exes were just as likely to kill women in domestic violence situations as the husbands. So they created what they call a boyfriend loophole. And what this means is that any person who is an intimate partner, which includes husbands, boyfriends, and exes, that, hold on, I have it on here. Okay, so if a boyfriend is convicted,
Okay.
Now this is specifically boyfriends, if they are convicted of stalking, assaulting a dating partner, or have had a restraining order placed on them by a current or ex-boyfriend, they would not qualify to be allowed to own a gun. Now, husbands,
That's a problem.
It's
for
a
the
felony, and they automatically are not allowed to do that. But boyfriends have never been prosecuted in the same sense with domestic violence, and they are allowed to own weapons.
See, to be honest with you, that makes no sense to me, because
Right.
in a world where boyfriends and husbands are essentially the same,
Right.
they should be treated
Absolutely.
the same, right? They should be looked at the
Yes,
same.
100%.
And these cats out here, they go too far.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody the other day who has a restraining order against them. The woman called our place of employment and said, "Hey, I have a restraining order against this person. They need to stop. And if you could tell them to please stop XYZ. I talked to this person. They said, well, I just wanted to encourage them. Listen, you can't encourage them. You can't tell them have a nice day. You can't give them $100 million. If you got a restraining order against you, that means stay away.
I mean, look, in 2019, a study showed that 4 women a day were being murdered by intimate partners. 4 per day.
It's heartbreaking.
And that is up. Okay, that has increased over the last couple years. Now, the FBI database also showed an increase in homicides if a partner in a domestic violence situation owns a firearm. The increase for homicides goes up 500%.
Wow.
If that partner owns a gun. So they are 500% more likely to murder their significant others if they own a weapon. So, I mean, look, stalking somebody typically turns into an aggressive situation. So these are not basic charges, people. These are serious behaviors that escalate into murder. So there is a reason why those have been included to protect women. But 172 Republicans says that's not good enough. These guys still deserve the right to own guns.
And guns, I believe in the Second Amendment, right?
Absolutely.
Right? I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe that I think every person of color specifically should go buy a gun today.
Yeah,
okay.
I agree with that.
However, I do believe there needs to be stronger background checks.
Yeah.
We need to figure out what is the mindset of this person buying the gun, which is very simple, right?
Right.
I've been in gun shops where they literally are saying, I'm mad at somebody, I need a gun.
I know, right?
I mean, I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, you shouldn't be telling him this.
Right. Well, it's going to get them not getting a gun, but...
And the guy was, the dude was a pro. Bro, he looked at him, talked to him, let him kind of look at the gun, talked about the gun, went to the back, came back to the front. Said, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that today.
Yeah.
However, if you'll come back a little later, we'll be able to look at what is available to you at that point. But, he was a pro, and it was one of the handguns I was purchasing. But I think that what happens is people get lost in the moment. They get angry in the moment, and then and I can't wait for us to do this. Honestly, this video on racial crime and hate crimes, because
I agree.
I think that if we could help people with a little common sense in the Second Amendment, just a little. Not restrict them from getting guns, but just do a background check. Just do a little bit of a wellness check in the sense of what promotes you in this world of streets, non-hunting.
Right.
And I'm not even against an AR-15. I'm not.
Yeah.
I think they're an aggressive offensive weapon. Okay, for me. And I know I'm kind of drifting into a land maybe our viewers don't want to see, but I want you to understand kind of where I'm coming out from it. I'm not even necessarily against AR-15s. However, if a person comes in and asks for an AR-15, there is no way that person should walk away that day with an AR-15.
No. Not at all.
It is an offensive defensive weapon. I understand it's for self-protection. I understand what the intent may be.
Right.
I understand, or what the presented stance may be, because most of these people that are going in and creating violent crimes, right, are not buying the AR-15 for a defensive weapon or a hunting weapon, right? They're buying it solely because it is an offensive weapon. The ones that are creating the crimes, at least. Not that everybody that owns an AR-15 is creating the crime. However, there is no way that they should be able to walk in that day and say, give me a killing machine.
Right.
And I know our audience isn't going to like the fact that I call the AR-15 a killing machine. It's not necessarily that.
Right.
But it can be used for that.
Oh, absolutely.
And we should check the mental well-being of people before we hand over a tool like that.
I agree. 100%. But, look, it's just, I just want to really bring people to an understanding of what is happening in our government between Republicans and Democrats right now.
It's powerful.
And we have seen such a disgusting display coming from Republicans right now. I mean, I'm sorry, 172 of you vote against protecting women in domestic violence situations.
It's unacceptable.
It's completely unacceptable. I mean, this should have been a no-brainer. There wasn't a million different special little clauses added. You know, it's the same excuse I hear Republicans say all the time. Well, did you look at the fine print? Did you look at all the little things Democrats like to add to the bills? That's, you know, ridiculous. That's why Republicans are always objecting. No, that's really just a lie.
You mean kind of like those additives that Trump wanted to add to restore the White House?
Yeah.
Build his personal wing.
To redecorate the White House? Yeah. It's ridiculous. And the truth is, some of these, I get, there's always going to be certain things each party's trying to throw in, right, that they want to get past. That's normal politics. But to go to the extent of this many people to not have a bipartisanship on a bill that makes no sense not to vote for.
Right.
So you want to talk about bipartisanship? Well, this was a no-brainer. You vote to reinstate a bill that protects women in domestic violence and children. This protects the children too.
Family.
Which protects the family.
Because who knows if they can't be restored if they get therapy.
Yeah. 100%. So it's just really disgusting to me to watch these Republicans vote against things and then complain that there's no bipartisanship. But they are not giving anything. I mean, they're not giving anything. So it's like they're just completely out of control right now. They care more about power than the preservation of American people.
So good.
I mean, right now we are seeing an incredible display of straight up voter suppression.
Yeah.
I mean, Republicans are literally spearheading campaigns to suppress people of color's vote, like openly.
If you can just take a moment, because this is important not only for the moment, but for our children's children, take a deep breath if you're with us in this video and hear what Tiffany's about to introduce as far as voter suppression going on, because it is mind-boggling. As we began to sit down and talk about it, it's terrifying for our future.
So Republicans recently, one in particular, Representative John Kavanaugh, said that he didn't think everybody should be voting. And I'm going to quote him because I want to actually read to you the words that came out of his mouth, because it was pretty astounding to me that he openly actually said this in public. But he says, there's a fundamental difference between Democrats and Republicans. Democrats value as many people as possible voting. And while they're willing to risk fraud. Republicans, however, are more concerned about fraud. So we don't mind putting security measures in that won't let everybody vote. But everybody shouldn't be voting. Not everybody wants to vote. And if somebody is uninterested in voting, that probably means that they're totally uninformed on issues. Quantity is important, but we have to look at the quality of votes as well.
So what he's essentially saying is it's because I talked somebody into voting, that person shouldn't vote.
Right. So let me break it down for you very simple.
Please do so.
What they are saying is black people and poor people are uneducated, therefore should not be allowed to vote. Plain and simple. The only people they believe that should be allowed to be voting right now are upper middle class and rich elite white people. This isn't my opinion. If you go back over the years and look at different comments made by different parties within the Republican Party, different corporations, different businesses that are all wrapped in together in the Republican National Convention, they have spoken many times about how uneducated people of color are and how uneducated the poor white people are. And so they are targeting them because they do not believe they have the right to vote. Again, not my opinion. These are things that have come out of their own mouths. I mean, Trump said just last year that if everybody votes, Republicans can't win.
Right.
Plain and simple. And unfortunately, Republicans, instead of doing what they should do, which is take the time to maybe reestablish themselves, reestablish their conservative views, which is what people have valued, and say, okay, how can we make this work today? To include everybody in this. How can we get everybody across the board to partake in our conservative values and our beliefs? But instead they're like, you know what? We're going to stick to what we know, and that's suppressing people's votes and rigging elections. That's what we know. So we're just going to stick to that. We're only going to have the people we know will vote for us vote, and we're just going to make sure nobody else will. So this is going to be interesting.
Tell it.
So another source also said one of the biggest issues right now is a lot of the people who fund the Republican Party, the financial backers, are pulling their money.
Big business, certainly.
Big businesses, multi-million, billion-dollar corporations who fund Republicans are saying, you know what, after the disaster that has been, we don't have any faith that you're going to be able to win an election again. And so we're just, we're not going to invest our money in you. So Republicans have basically told them, oh no, invest your money. We're going to make sure we win the elections in 2022.
How are they going to do it?
We are going to make sure we win back the Senate, make sure we win back the House, and take over Congress, 100%.
And Tiffany, how will they do it?
By changing voting laws, people. By restricting people's ability to vote. So, in 2021, now people, we are only 3 months into 2021, but there have been 253 restrictive voting bills placed into legislation to be reviewed and passed. 253 across 43 states.
Unbelievable.
Within the first 3 months of 2021.
Now tell me what has recently changed since the 1960s.
Well, if you happen to watch our voter suppression video, which I highly recommend that you do that, we really talk in detail about this. But back in 2013, after Obama was reelected for a second term and they had a higher turnout of black voters versus white voters, they gutted the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And states that were highly prone to discriminatory behavior against people of color were placed on a very bad naughty list and not allowed to make changes without approval from the U.S. government, from the U.S. Supreme Court.
But recently
they had been taken off that list. So now they are allowed to make changes without the approval of the U.S. Supreme Court to determine that it is not discriminatory against people of color. So they have gone all out. All out. So Georgia, Arizona, and Pennsylvania alone account for more than 30% of the 253 restrictive bills. 3 states alone have more bills than any of the other. And
think they made that list by accident?
And mind you, these are all states that were in the 1965 Voting Acts Rights bill being passed to protect from this happening because they were notorious for this. And again, they are showing their colors saying, hey, they are right back to being discriminatory.
Show your true colors.
So let's talk about Georgia for a minute. Now, I love Georgia. Georgia's near and dear to my heart. I lived there for a few years, and I really grew to love the people there and the state. But a lot is happening in Georgia right now. And honestly, in my opinion, this was a very sad day for America. And just a disgusting display of gutting our democracy and taking us back to the Jim Crow laws is really what has happened. So Georgia passed this week what the Republicans called, the Election Integrity Act of 2021. Now, for those who may not know, obviously Georgia turned blue. And of these 3 states, Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, all turned blue in 2020 for the first time in a very long time. These were all swing states, all Republican states that turned blue. So these are states that are heavily run in the legislation by Republicans. Even though the state turned blue, Republicans control the states individually. So the Republican lawmakers all got together and started passing all of these bills because states have the right to govern their own rules and regulations for elections. So Republican parties got together, passed through these horrible bills, and one of them was in Georgia. So the Election Integrity Act of 2021 was signed today by Governor Kemp, and this bill just truly broke my heart. It really, really did. And they specifically targeted people of color, without a doubt. Now, they were asked about it because it was very obvious that they targeted people of color, and they were like, oh no, there is no voter suppression whatsoever involved in this bill. So one thing that is very popular in Georgia is something called Souls to the Polls. And this was something started by a pastor in Savannah about 5 years ago. And what this entails is after church on Sunday, the congregation all load up in buses and they drive them to polls for early voting on a Sunday afternoon so all these black communities can come together and they can go vote. Well, that was one thing that was targeted by Republicans. They were fighting very hard to be able to prevent Souls to the Polls from happening. And so one of their focuses was taking away weekend rights to vote. They wanted to completely eliminate the ability for people to vote early on weekends. Now, if you say, well, you know, that affects everybody, right? And you're right, it does affect everybody. But let me give you a few statistics, right? A few points to digest here. There are 159 counties in Georgia. 107 of them, data showed, where black people or people of color voted early in those counties, primarily on the weekends, and they have the highest turnout of almost 40% of people of color voting on Sundays. Now that's data. That's facts. They have this. They know for a fact people of color predominantly vote on Saturdays and Sundays.
And let's not think it was a mistake for them to work on those laws.
Oh, of course not. 100%. Their whole reason for targeting taking away weekends was to stop Souls to the Polls. Period. So I just want to really emphasize that this was about voter suppression, 100%. Now, they did not succeed in taking weekends away completely. What they did, though, is they eliminated a lot of early voting, a lot of restriction on mail-in voting, and a lot of restriction on times for polls, closing a lot earlier, reducing polls, and they took away voting on the weekend for the most part for early voting. They're only allowing 2 Saturdays, 2, for early voting. Now, they did put a clause, and this is how they get away with saying it's not voter suppression. They're leaving 1 Sunday a month during the early voting as an option, potentially, for early voting. Now, again, that has to be approved to allow that to happen. And do you honestly think any of the Republicans are going to approve a Sunday voting?
Tell them.
No, they're not. But they put that in there so they can say, hey, we're not taking away their right to vote on the weekends. We're giving them the option that they can have an option to be able to do that. But let's be real, that's not going to happen.
Because they're tooting the Lexington.
Right. So they're taking away, they're limiting weekends. They're taking away poll options. They're taking away early voting options. They're limiting the ability on requesting mail-in ballots. And people, this is specifically targeting people of color. There is literally no way to justify what they are doing. And because they are trying to say, because of what happened in 2020, well, people, nothing happened in 2020. There was no election fraud. And state of Georgia recounted, it was 2 or 3 times. And again,
they're trying to get their money, by the way.
They're still trying to get their money from Trump for those recounts. But Republican officials said there was no election fraud. They stood by the results of what they counted. And yet this bill was passed on the idea of protecting them from future election frauds like what happened in 2020. Well, there was none. There absolutely was none. So this bill was strictly based because Republicans lost, and the only way to keep them from continuing to lose is to eliminate the biggest turnout that they had in the state of Georgia, which was people of color.
Tell it.
You know, and then on top of that, so the Secretary of State, who Trump specifically asked to overturn and find his 11,000 votes, there's a Republican representative, Jody, I think it's Heiss is his last name, from Georgia, who has decided that he is going to run for Secretary of State in 2022 because he voted to overturn the election and allow Trump to win. And so he feels that the current Secretary of State should have done that. And so he is going to run against him. That way he can make things right in the state of Georgia.
And there's a ton of people all across the country. That's one of their primary philosophies. It's
right.
The big boys, the yellow boys, the rules.
Boogaloo boys.
Boogaloo boys, but the other one, the Proud Boys.
Proud boys.
Proud Boys. Proud Boys. Okay. They said that one of the ways they're going to do it, and the reason they chose boys as their title, is because they want to be innocent appearing so that they can get into roles like mayors and.
Oh yeah,
it's a strategy of hate that's being implemented across our
country. Right, they're running for elected positions.
Let me say this because I'm not saying it. The Homeland Security is saying it.
Yeah.
That they are a dangerous white supremacist organization, and you could say all you want to. Hey, whoa! I'm of this cultural background. But I'm a Proud Boy. Well, they also said that about African slaves who were forced to participate in the Civil War. And you're not being forced to do shit, but not use your brain apparently because of a lack of oxygen or what would cause a person of color to be a boy. I have no idea.
Right.
But, you need some help, bro. Now, I'm not going to bullshit with you for a minute because I'm going to drink down. I'm going to tell you the truth. If you a person of color and you allow somebody to call you a boy from the very beginning, there's something broke up here, bro.
Look, the truth is, Georgia spoke very clear in the 2020 election. They turned a state blue for a reason. Because they were tired of being dismissed, being oppressed, being walked over, and they said enough was enough. So they cast their vote, their legitimate vote. And right now, the Republicans have said very clearly, fuck you. We don't care what the majority wanted for this state. We want to win this election. We want the power back. And we don't give a fuck what the people of Georgia really wants. That's really what they're saying. And it's disgusting. And they need to be held accountable for this behavior. This should not be allowed at all. I mean, I can't even believe we're here right now with them so openly doing this.
Yeah, and we have to understand this and remember this, though. Where the people are, there's power.
Absolutely.
And we can bring about change.
Yeah, don't let this defeat you, especially Georgia and Pennsylvania, Arizona, all these states that are dealing with this right now. Don't let this defeat you.
You have provoked their wrath, but we stand with you, and you need to continue to press in these states. We need heroes like Stacey Abrams to continue to rise up.
Absolutely.
And we need you to become a hero in your state, demanding that the legislation like this, laws like this, not be tolerated.
Yeah.
That people around you are aware of what's going on, why it's going on, and that we put a cease to it. Okay?
Yeah, fight back. And the way to fight back is to still vote.
Yeah.
Find out the new restrictions and the new laws so you are prepared to fight back
around it.
And make sure you get your ass to those polls. And we show them, hey, you can try all you want, but we're done being suppressed.
What has become obvious, if nothing else, is that the presidential election is not enough.
100%.
The local government is where it's at. We need to become
state and local, yeah.
Yeah, state and local governments are where it's at. We need to become aggressive when it comes to the House.
Yeah.
To the Senate. We need to become aggressive when it comes to mayors.
Yes.
When it comes to governors, where it comes to
Secretary of State,
where it comes to superintendent of schools.
Yes.
Any of these political positions, where it comes to the chief of the police and so forth, we need to become aggressive in owning our vote and making sure our voice is heard.
You know how we get better people in politics? We vote them in.
Yeah.
if you want change and you don't like the way things are going, which honestly nobody should really like the way things are going, you're going to change that by voting good people back into politics that care about us.
And we know the cost of running campaigns. We've done the research.
Yeah.
It is astronomical.
Yeah.
And so many good people simply won't run because they have no chance to win,
Right.
have no chance to recoup that money. But we need to demand it of our society that people that would make a difference are in the position that they should be.
Absolutely.
This has been a powerful review of current events in America right now.
A lot going on.
Obviously, your blood is boiling. There's more than one or two. What the hell? This woman just say moments in this table talk. I hope it's benefited you. I hope it's made you think. I hope it's made you aware. Obviously, this slightly over an hour video is very powerful, and I hope it'll provoke you to get involved in letting your voice be heard, letting your household vote be known, and making a difference in the community that we live in. I'm Richard Thomas.
And I'm Tiffany Thomas.
And I want to thank you so much for being a part of the Lionheart Institute podcast today. I hope it's been a powerful moment for you, and I hope that you will like, share, and please subscribe.
Yeah, definitely. If you haven't had a chance, subscribe, hit the bell, make sure you don't miss out any notifications on our latest videos. We appreciate you so much being a part of the Lionheart Institute community. So, definitely hit that subscribe button.
And one of the incredible things is we've recently hit some milestones.
Yes, we have.
And we're getting to that 1,000 subscriber mark.
We are super excited about that, and we're less than 100 away from hitting our first goal of 1,000 subscribers. So please, we would love you to be part of that first 1,000. So if you haven't subscribed so we can say, hey, you were part of our first 1,000 subscribers. Very important to us.
Very, very close to almost 5,000 watch hours, for instance. And it's really, really cool to see people care about our content by their comments, by your thoughts, by your likes.
Yeah.
And then, of course, some of you are emailing us and leaving us thoughts, and it really matters to us. So we've integrated a lot of what you're talking about and what you've thought about and what you feel about our content into our presentation style and what we're trying to do. Now, we're just speaking to you from our heart still, and I don't think that'll ever change.
Yeah.
We won't be persuaded that much. But we do want to be in line with what our audience wants to hear, wants to talk about, and we really want to make sure that we're bringing relevant topics to the presentation floor.
Yeah, and if you ever have a topic that maybe you'd like to hear what our opinions or thoughts on, or let us dive a little deeper and discover things, please, shoot us an email or do a comment. Let us know. We would love to, kind of just give you what you want in that, and maybe talk about some things that is important to you as well.
And one of the things we love to do is our interview series.
Yeah.
And so if you're for us, that's great. If you think the same way we think, we'll have a great time in an interview and we'll edify you and build you up. But maybe there's some people out there that you'd love us to interview that think a little different than us, that present a little different than us. That would be just as engaging and enjoyable to us as well. We are all bullheaded people, strong-willed people.
Yeah.
However, we're not closed to having other people's opinions presented to us and presented to us in such a way that we need to wrestle with them. So that'd be fun for us as well. So keep that in mind if you have a friend or a family member or somebody that you'd really like to see on our show as well. God bless you. Welcome to the Lionheart Institute podcast. Again, I'm Richard Thomas.
Tiffany Thomas.
I hope you enjoyed it.
See you soon.